Network.
It's time for the Kelly Show. Kelly is an award-winning photographer and the owner of the website iloveclearwater.com. Doug is the author of 4 published books and a contributing editor for Florida Sportsman magazine. And now, here they are.
Here we are indeed, and thanks for joining us as we enter our 8th year of the Kelly Show. Amazing, right?
Phenomenal.
Time flies. You know, it's been fun periodically playing our favorite songs, too, from days of old, as well as interviewing over 700 responsible people in Tampa Bay. Today's show stays within the latter tradition.
It does. You can also watch the show on our Facebook page, The Kelly Show, and on Tan Talk Radio's YouTube channel. The show is also podcast for the interest of expats and others on internetradiopros.com.
There you go. And joining us today, as always, is Ed Davis, the Tan Talk Executive Director and part-time ballet instructor. Ed, how you doing?
Oh, boy.
Hot.
Are you hot?
It is hot.
Yeah,
I'm ready for a cold front.
You think it's like in the 90s or so?
Yeah, it's always in the 90s.
Terrible. That doesn't feel good. I love it. Like everybody else, you know.
Till about June or July.
Early May, April, when it stays around 72.
Yeah.
That's when it's nice.
Absolutely. You need to stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
Well, it is really hot, and it's tough for those of us who play golf or go to the beaches, and you do have to stay hydrated as well as keeping your exposed parts covered with sunblock. Otherwise, you're going to pay for it.
I'm one of those people that sunburns in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, you know, this time of the year causes flashbacks of Jimmy Buffett's song, too, Margaritaville, when he talks about all those tourists covered in oil while he's on his front porch strumming his 6-string.
Let's not sing that.
Give me $5 or I'll continue singing.
That's right. We're going to take a short break before introducing our guest today, but first see if you can answer this trivia question. If you dug a hole from one side of the earth, through to the opposite end, and jumped in it, how long would it take to reach the opposite end? Is the answer 42 minutes, an hour and 42 minutes, or 2 hours and 42 minutes? The answer right after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
Shop the largest selection of Guy Harvey apparel, artwork, and gift items at GuyHarvey.com. From the world-renowned marine wildlife artist, the Guy Harvey online shop features the latest in performance apparel, classic Guy Harvey t-shirts, decor for every room in your home, exquisite ocean-inspired jewelry, and unique gift items, including custom merchandise not available anyplace else. Browse an extensive catalog of original Guy Harvey works of art and a full range of beautiful reproductions. As with all Guy Harvey merchandise, a percentage of sales benefits the ocean conservation, research, and education work of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation will help ensure that future generations can enjoy and benefit from a well-balanced ocean ecosystem. Bring the undersea world into your everyday life at GuyHarvey.com.
Just about everyone is fascinated by the mafia. Books and movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, and many others became bestsellers and box office hits. Did you know that a century ago, mobsters like Al Capone discovered Florida's tropical climate and sparse law enforcement? Mafia bosses from around the nation began setting up illegal operations in Florida. Now, for the first time, a new book titled Sunshine State Mafia, A History of Florida's Mobsters, Hitmen, and Wise Guys provides vivid stories and never-before-seen images of dangerous criminals who settled in Florida full or part-time. Written by renowned author Doug Kelly, Sunshine State Mafia exposes the hidden history of the mob throughout the state and includes Doug's own brushes with crime figures. Sunshine State Mafia is available at all major book retailers, or obtain a signed copy by calling 727-724-4949 or email sunshinestatemafia@gmail.com.
What do the most successful companies have in common? They leverage growth by forming valuable relationships and partnerships. Amplify Clearwater puts you in touch with accomplished business and community leaders that inspires networking and helps you navigate the best courses of action for your company. Become a member and instantly acquire a powerful edge over your competitors by forming strong connections with top business leaders and elected officials. Amplify Clearwater. One community, one chamber, one vision. Contact us at amplifyclearwater.com or call 727-461-0011. That's amplifyclearwater.com. 727-461-0011.
Discover Clearwater like never before with iloveclearwater.com. Whether you're a resident or a visitor, our website is your go-to source for all things Clearwater. Find the best hotels, restaurants, parks, shopping, and events all in one place. Dive into our engaging photos and videos. Explore over 500 informative articles. Visit iloveclearwater.com today and experience the best of Clearwater. iloveclearwater.com, your ultimate guide to Clearwater for fun, sun, and smiles.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hey, thank you for sticking with us here on the Kelly Show. We do a little teasers before some of our ad breaks, and this time we did a rather bizarre one, if I may say so myself. And it is, if you dug a hole from one side of the earth through all the way to the center of the earth to the opposite end, jumped in it, how long would it take to reach the opposite end? And according to a book of trivia that I have and use for these, it says 42 minutes.
And I'm looking at that on the internet on Reddit, and somebody else says 42 minutes. So, but
I don't see how it's possible.
I don't know. We were discussing it during the break, and
I don't want to burn my brain cells to death over it.
I know it,
but
right?
We do have a show to continue.
Yeah, we do. Our first guest is David Albritton, who was born and raised in Clearwater. He was a building contractor and homeowner for over 50 years. Why did you include homeowner, Doug, in this?
Because he's been a homeowner.
Oh.
He's been a tax-paying homeowner for 50 years.
Okay.
These days, you need to be proud of that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's true.
Was that in doubt or? Okay.
No, not
right.
really. Some people don't. But anyway, Dave has served the city in many capacities, actually, on various boards and committees over the years. He's presently a Clearwater City Councilman for Seat 4, and he served in that capacity for the past 6 years and has 2 more years left on his term. For those who are unfamiliar with Clearwater's government setup, the format is a management council form, not a strong mayor form. Mm-hmm. And 5 people get elected citywide, every 2 years.
That's
the
true.
ones who come up. So hey, it's good to have you on the show again, Dave. Appreciate it.
Great to be here again.
Wonderful.
And
why don't we talk about?
We're not going to be talking about the city council, are we?
Well, no. There are always issues involved in terms of a lot of great things that are going on around the city. Not least to mention the Coachman Park and how that's going, and a lot of other plans in the works for
2000.
Huh?
At 19. What are you talking?
State
You're
road.
talking about
The road, state road.
highway, U.S. Highway 19.
Anyway,
Boy, we're off today, huh?
well, Dade has a very interesting background, and it's musical. And tell us a little bit about the history of that and how that's helped the city from time to time.
Well, not many people know this, especially ones that had just come into Clearwater. But Clearwater goes way back with a musical history. You know, in the 60s, we had a thing called Star Spectacular, and it was the Clearwater Recreation Department with WLCY 80 AM radio back then. We didn't have FM in the 60s, but it was a radio station that played all the hits. And if you know, the mid-60s, 65 is when rock and roll really started coming in. The groups,
The British groups
started playing. They really had rock and roll was started deep roots in blues that they heard from America, and then they brought over and made songs out of it.
and Elvis too in the late 50s.
Absolutely, Elvis was a big driver of that. And you know, the neat thing about bands is they listen to each other and they kind of go
Compete.
They compete. They go, you know, I really like that riff or that, you know, the lyrics on that song, and they'll change it a little bit and make their own song. And that's how music really works. And anyway, so they put on these Star Spectacular events, and they were a couple times a month. They would have it at the, we had a rec center that was located down on the water, kind of where Calvary Baptist Church, next to where that used to be.
Yes.
And kind of where City Hall used to, the foot of where City Hall used to be. It was an auditorium, and they would have these bands. And of course, they'd have a lot of local bands. The boys that had garage bands would come in, and they would open for somebody that we'd all heard about, that was famous. And it started in 1960 and went for 10 years. In 1970, the building had some structural issues, so they stopped doing it then. But, you know, we had every main act that was in New York, LA, Chicago.
Wow.
They came down to Little Clearwater then.
Yes.
And Clearwater was only, at that time, 28,000 people. I mean, it wasn't very big.
Yeah.
And somehow they got the rec department got these people to come in. I got a hold of a couple of contracts, and one of the ones was for the Rolling Stones. I mean, really before they made their USA premiere, on the front end of that, we had them come into Clearwater.
Wow.
And so we didn't have it in the building. We had it out at Jack Russell Stadium because they figured it was going to be, you know, they'd have a lot of people. And they got halfway through their first song, and some of the frat boys from the JC were throwing toilet paper rolls. And the cop shut it down and got them back in their limousine or whatever, and took them back to the Jack Harrison Hotel where they were staying. And I have it on a good that they went that night, and that's when they came up with the song, or the lyrics for the song, "Can't Get No Satisfaction."
Yeah. Yeah.
How
It
about
was
that?
in the Jack Harrison Hotel. So that was always something that
that's
was
cool.
really neat.
And you know what's interesting is Jagger is in his 80s now.
Oh, yeah, they all are.
How can you be in your 80s and you're saying I can't get no satisfaction? I think he's had a hell of a lot of action.
Oh, he has. You know,
That's amazing.
I didn't see him back then because I was 15 and 65. They came here in 65.
Wow.
And I didn't have a driver's license, and I didn't know who they were, and my dad wasn't going to drive me over there. But I did see him about a month ago. I went up to...
No kidding.
Yeah, I went up and saw him at the concert. First time, brought my wife, and it was really good. They had a pit measly 500,000 people there.
Oh
They were,
my God.
I mean, we were right in the middle of it, but they still are good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I hear they play just like they used to.
yeah,
Still had a strong beat and vocals, and they're all characters.
yeah.
You know.
So that was at the New Orleans Jazz Festival,
Oh, okay.
and that
That's
was
cool.
really, really good time. So I'll probably be going back next year.
That's good.
But we've had a lot of music history here in Clearwater, not only with the Star Spectaculars, but remember Woody Riley's Warehouse?
Yes, I do.
They were a big jazz warehouse.
Yep.
And
Sawdust on the floor.
sawdust on the floor. And I
Benches.
remember
Yep.
they were great. I'd go in to listen to them, and great singers. And
Yep.
and those were real, like New Orleans jazz kind of thing, with the saxophones and clarinets. And
And of course, Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison was here. I think I met him when he lived here. I used to go to a place called Beauart's in St. Pete. It was an old house that they would do different rooms in the house. They would have movies in one room, and they would have a band playing upstairs, and then they'd have poetry readings. So different rooms would have different people get up and read their poetry.
That's kind of
and,
cool.
Yeah, and I think they served coffee. I mean, they didn't have booze there because it was mostly young people. But when Jim was here, he was a poet, and he hadn't started his music career until he went out to L.A., which later, and that's when he put the poetry to music and became really famous. But
With the Doors, in case people don't know
yeah,
that.
Jim Morrison, the Doors. In the Clearwater Public Library, if you go up to the 4th floor, they have the door of his house, the front door of his house up there on the 4th floor.
You know,
You wanna
I've
go see
been
it?
up
The door
there,
of the
but I've never
Doors.
noticed that.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. The house was demoed
Yeah.
about 15 years ago, but they kept the front door, and the library has it up there now. So if you want to go see it, and they have a little something about Jim Morrison.
How about that?
That's kind of neat. That's kind of neat.
Who else
Well-
famous has been here or lived here? Or
We have a lot of people in the area. I back in 2010, I put together a 50-year Star Spectacular. 50 years later, I brought it back, and I called, and I didn't know him. I heard him up in Tarpon Springs with Bertie Higgins.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, and I got his phone number. He lived out in California. I called him, and I got him on the phone. I said, Bertie, you don't know me, but I told him my name, Dave Albritton, and I used to come up to the little bar and listen to you. My wife and I used to listen to you in Tarpon. I know your family's up there. I have a favor to ask. I'm going to bring back the Star Spectacular 50 years, after 1960, and I want you to be the headliner, because he was one of the local boys in the band called Sons. Let's see, his band was Sons of Man, I believe. He was a drummer in that band.
I didn't know that.
And he played at a lot of different Star Spectaculars.
Yeah.
And so I said, I can't pay you, and I can't pay your flight, but maybe you want to come back and see your family and then do a little show for us.
Yeah.
And he didn't hesitate. He said, yeah, I'd love to. So
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
he came back. He was our headliner. And then I had some people that also in bands that played back then that live around here. It was amazing. These local boys that opened for the bigger acts, they were so inspired by the music that they went on to become famous themselves. Bertie he was a one-hit wonder, with Key Largo. David Muse, he was real instrumental in bringing all the band members back, because he played in band here also. But he went on to form Firefall, and then Manassas, and played with a lot of different bands. He's a great artist, plays saxophone, guitar, all kinds of instruments. But we had Joe Lala, who played with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. He was up on stage, and we had a 45-minute jam at the end of all the boys that played. Now, a lot of them hadn't played since back then, but they got up and they
Yeah.
came in for it, and it was a great, you know what it was? It was the first, I talked to Frank Chevis, who owns Bay Star Restaurants. He was bringing in the offshore powerboat races here in Clearwater, and he needed to have some kind of entertainment for Friday night. I said, I'm going to give you a concert, and we'll do it down in the park. And we brought about 2,500 people down there.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you also have some retired people. Gary Puckett
Gary's here.
from Gary Puckett in the Union Gap from the 60s. He's retired on the beach.
Yeah.
Pretty much keeps to himself. You were mentioning the fellow who sang Key Largo, Bertie Higgins.
Yeah.
He also had a couple of B hits like Casablanca and Savannah 55. For anyone who's really a fan of his, they wouldn't know it otherwise. But, you're right about one thing. A lot of the bands, like the Rolling Stone, not the Stones, the Beach Boys,
Yes.
would buy an album like from the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. They would sit there and listen to the entire album. And it was like, I heard it was like dead silence after they heard it, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to top that?
Here's a fact that I didn't know. I saw a movie, and I've seen it 2 or 3 times because I love it. It's called Echo in the Canyon. And it's all about the bands during the 60s. They were out in California. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. You had the Beach Boys. When the Beatles would come over, they'd go out there, and they would all go to their different houses and practice and play and come up with these. And they wouldn't steal from one another, but they get inspired by one another.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I didn't know it, but the Beach Boys, a lot of their songs were inspired by Bach.
Really?
Yes. The way they put the notes together, and that came out in the movie. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that.
That's
A lot of
surprising.
people did. There was also, it wasn't local, of course, it was based in LA, but there was a group of musicians called the Wrecking Crew. And they did almost all of the background music and the compositions for the Mamas and the Papas and America and the Byrds and a whole bunch of
Right.
Vanilla Fudge, a lot of those different groups. So they would actually, like you said, get together and piece things together like a puzzle.
And they were all out there. They were Mamas and the Papas were a big group. They were in the canyon.
Yeah.
Gosh, and they would fragment and form different bands, and they'd be successful as well.
Sure.
They'd have a little bit different sound, and
Kenny Rogers, Glenn Campbell would break away from their groups and become singles, etc. Yeah, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. So if somebody was wanting to know more about musical history in Clearwater, where would they go? Or is there a website or a book? Or
I had a website, and I have the URL for it, but I had to take it down because it got hacked.
oh no,
Eventually I'm going to try to put it back up again.
oh yeah,
But it had all the bands that came in the 60s that played here, and it's an amazing list of bands. Remember Ted Webb, radio personality in Tampa? He, he was really into music, and he has I think a website. He's passed away now, but the website lives on about all the music history in the Tampa area.
Okay.
And mentions a lot of the Star Spectaculars.
What was his name again?
Ted Webb.
Okay.
Ted Webb.
Ted Webb.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that would make an excellent book, actually, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
Don't
cool.
you think?
Yeah.
Well, you have musical talent too. Don't you sing or play guitar?
Well, I play drums and guitar.
Oh,
Do
drums
you?
too. I didn't know
And,
that.
I did not know that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Jeez.
Well, I heard you were singing one time for a group, and a lot of shots rang out, and they closed down the show. Sent you to Alcatraz.
Well, not much of a singer, but I do like music, and
Yeah.
I put together I had a property downtown. It's where the Intermodal Center is now, as a matter of fact, where that's going to go, the new bus station.
Mm-hmm.
And the city bought it from me in 2014 because of green light. The Intermodal Center was going to be there for, things in Clearwater get talked about for years before anything happens. But
Decades.
But anyway, I had a lot of space, and I ended up building out the inside of the building with studios for bands because nobody really had a good place. They go in a garage, it's hot, and
Yeah.
So I had about 3,500 square feet. So I built 10 studios.
Oh.
And equipped them with soundproofing and had a key fingerprint lock on the front door, and I had keys to get into the individual studios. I kept one for myself, which was Studio 10. And I would have people come over weekly, and we'd have a jam, and just for an hour or two, we had a lot of fun doing that. Well, eventually we got the band together, and I was a guitar player, and we had a drummer, but the drummer moved, and so I put out feelers for auditions for other drummers to come in, and they would never show up. We'd all be there ready to go, and the last time I did, I had two of them come in at the same time. Figure if one go, and none of them showed up.
Oh, wow.
So I said, I hung my guitar up. I said, I used to play drums when I was a kid. Went out, bought a set of drums, started playing drums for the band, and that's how we got our name, Studio 10 Band, because it was our studio we practiced in. And we played at Naughty Nancy's monthly. You remember that?
Yeah, I sure do.
Sure.
And she's right next door. She was right next door.
For the station here, yeah.
Now
We
it's
played-
sand something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we played around Clearwater and had a great time until COVID, and that kind of took care of a lot of bands, and ours was one of them. So
Okay.
Do you do karaoke?
no, I don't
You don't
really
do
do
that?
the singing.
Not too much.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you know this, but we have like the sound now, and
Oh yeah, I know all about the
in
sound.
the Coachman Park. I mean, they set up a small stage in Coachman Park sometimes, don't they, for bands?
I think they do. In
Yeah.
fact,
That would be really nice if you could
yeah.
perform there.
And we got Ruth Eckerd Hall.
Yeah.
And
We have-
got
we
the
have,
Capitol Theater.
We have
Yeah.
something for everybody. Ruth,
We do.
yeah,
For
Ruth Eckerd has got about 900 seats, and then, Capitol Theater,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Bill Heimer Capitol,
Yeah.
which is downtown Clearwater, and then Ruth Eckerd Hall, about 2,800 seats.
Mhm.
That's a really nice venue out off of McMullen Booth. And now we got the sound, and we've got 4,000 seats under the roof, another 5,000 on the green. So, we've had we're coming up on a year. It opened about 2 weeks. It's been 1 year we've been open, and we've had all kinds of great acts.
Yeah.
And you're having a 1-year anniversary coming up here.
Next week.
Is that the 28th?
Yes, I think so.
28th, yeah.
This week, yeah. Sounds good.
Are you going to play in that?
I'm not going to play.
Oh, no. So you're
Yeah,
going to be on stage. That's why.
Well, I'm just going to be there to listen to the great music. So.
Awesome.
Can't beat that. Well, listen, it's been fun having you on. What's the contact info? You're a council member. If anybody has a suggestion or comment or beef or inquiry about Clearwater,
No
Sure.
beefs.
how
No
they
beefs.
get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm going to spell it for you. It's my
Okay.
name, David.Albritton, ALLBRITTON @myclearwater.com. Send me an email, and I do respond to emails. So
Very nice.
Awesome. Thank
Yep.
you for being here.
All right, super.
thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
next
right.
time you're going to have to bring your drums or your guitar or something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Now,
All right.
we'll be right back. But first, see if you can answer this. Name the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. Simple as that. The answer right after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
Shop the largest selection of Guy Harvey apparel, artwork, and gift items at GuyHarvey.com. From the world-renowned marine wildlife artist, the Guy Harvey online shop features the latest in performance apparel, classic Guy Harvey t-shirts, decor for every room in your home, exquisite ocean-inspired jewelry, and unique gift items, including custom merchandise not available anyplace else. Browse an extensive catalog of original Guy Harvey works of art and a full range of beautiful reproductions. As with all Guy Harvey merchandise, a percentage of sales benefits the ocean conservation, research, and education work of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation will help ensure that future generations can enjoy and benefit from a well-balanced ocean ecosystem. Bring the undersea world into your everyday life at GuyHarvey.com.
Just about everyone is fascinated by the mafia. Books and movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, and many others became bestsellers and box office hits. Did you know that a century ago, mobsters like Al Capone discovered Florida's tropical climate and sparse law enforcement? Mafia bosses from around the nation began setting up illegal operations in Florida. Now, for the first time, a new book titled Sunshine State Mafia, A History of Florida's Mobsters, Hitmen, and Wise Guys provides vivid stories and never-before-seen images of dangerous criminals who settled in Florida full or part-time. Written by renowned author Doug Kelly, Sunshine State Mafia exposes the hidden history of the mob throughout the state and includes Doug's own brushes with crime figures. Sunshine State Mafia is available at all major book retailers, or obtain a signed copy by calling 727-724-4949 or email sunshinestatemafia@gmail.com.
What do the most successful companies have in common? They leverage growth by forming valuable relationships and partnerships. Amplify Clearwater puts you in touch with accomplished business and community leaders that inspires networking and helps you navigate the best courses of action for your company. Become a member and instantly acquire a powerful edge over your competitors by forming strong connections with top business leaders and elected officials. Amplify Clearwater. One community, one chamber, one vision. Contact us at amplifyclearwater.com or call 727-461-0011. That's amplifyclearwater.com. 727-461-0011.
Discover Clearwater like never before with iloveclearwater.com. Whether you're a resident or a visitor, our website is your go-to source for all things Clearwater. Find the best hotels, restaurants, parks, shopping, and events all in one place. Dive into our engaging photos and videos. Explore over 500 informative articles. Visit iloveclearwater.com today and experience the best of Clearwater. iloveclearwater.com, your ultimate guide to Clearwater for fun, sun, and smiles.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Kelly Kelly Show. I'm Kelly Kelly. I'm here with my better 7/8 Doug Kelly. And before the break, Doug asked if you could name the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. And the answer is, of course, Jefferson, Lincoln, Washington, and Roosevelt.
Which Roosevelt? Because there's 2.
I'm going to say Theodore.
You're correct. It is Theodore, not Franklin Roosevelt. Although either one, I guess, could have been on there. So,
Yep.
Talk about Dr. White. I think you have a book out called, you co-authored it with Charlie Price of Stepping into the Lead, a Leadership Pocket Primer. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you hail from New York State's Adirondack foothills, which is kind of cool. All kinds of medical training and education. And talk about his career.
Absolutely. And his medical career addressed clinical, academic, administrative, and regulatory medicine. He was appointed clinical professor of medicine at Temple University and University of Pittsburgh Schools of Medicine.
Often known simply as Dr. Mike. He's authored 8 books, actually. So it's really nice to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for this invitation.
Very good.
When in Florida, Dr. Mike resides in Bel Air with his wife, Jackie, and they have 4 children and 9 grandchildren. Now, you did co-author this book with Charlie Price, who I believe is the CEO of Cox Seafood in Tampa.
That's correct.
That's correct. And tell us about your co-author, Charlie Price.
That's
Well-
enough. That's enough.
I wish it was enough.
I'm kidding.
Charlie, the show Everybody Loves Raymond?
Sure,
Yes.
Sure.
Well, that's Charlie.
Aw.
Okay. He's younger, taller, better looking, cool. He's everything I'm not.
Yeah.
He happens, the reason I tolerate him is because he's actually a very good writer. And he complimented me wonderfully in this endeavor. He happens to be a great golfer, and I hold that against him.
Because you're a golfer too.
I am. And, so we'll keep Charlie around.
There you
Okay.
go.
Awesome.
How about you? Do you play golf?
I do. I played golf today.
Wow.
I again set the course record for a geriatric golfer
Uh-huh.
with short-term memory, with sketchy ethics, and an eraser.
All right.
And I consistently do very well.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It's been known quite a bit around town about your golf game.
Yeah.
The towering tee shots, the stiletto-like irons to the green, the putting. You putt like a diamond setter. You have such sensitive precision in your putting, and then you wake up.
Actually, I've been accused of putting or observed to putt like a bat on a moonless night. That's how I read the greens.
All right, that's pretty good. Did you
Okay.
see the U.S. Open that week before last?
Oh, wonderful.
Was that
Yeah.
an incredible thing? For
Yeah.
those who didn't see it, it was a battle between Bryce and DeChambeau
Mhm.
and McIlroy,
Mhm.
Rory McIlroy, and it was back and forth, and finally DeChambeau made an incredible par in the last hole, amazing up and down. But yeah, that was exciting, without a doubt. So, how does a practicing physician find himself in a leadership type of role where you're teaching others?
Well, I can tell you what happened to me. I would say the first thing I did was to establish myself as a good clinician and a good teacher. And then as I worked in organizations, I think they found me easy to get along with, or not too hard to get along with.
That's important. That's very
It
important.
is important.
And then I believe I had, there's nature and nurture. I think from the beginning I had the organizational gene, and then from there, leaders above would come and say, "Would you help us with this? Help us with that?" One thing leads to another.
Sure.
Okay.
Now you found your niche.
Yes, and then they offered me some big jobs, and I was probably dumb enough to take it.
I hear you.
I love it. How did you decide to write Stepping into the Lead, a leadership pocket primer?
Well, it's important to know your business. And as a clinician over the years, I came to really understand I was in the business of STEEP, which is safe, timely, efficient, effective, patient-centered care. And then it happens that you move on in life, and I don't think I've ever fully accepted retirement, but some would,
Sure.
especially my kids, would say, yes, you're retired. But at that point, I moved into writing, and I understood my business to be seeking, finding, and sharing wisdom. And I think along the way, I learned a lot. And I think Charlie, who's still in the thick of it, will say over time he's learned a lot. And we've had the privilege to be in a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel we have the responsibility to share what we learned.
I love it.
Well, so what are some of those concepts that the reader of that book, for instance, will encounter?
Well, let's talk about who might read it.
Okay.
Yeah, who might read it?
Okay, so, to write a book about leadership, it sounds like you have to think a lot of yourself, but that's not the case. This is written with great humility. And I would say if there were to be readers, the first category would be people like me and who have been through it.
Mhm.
And I would like them to, after giving it a quick read, get back to me with an email that said, Mike, the feedback sandwich, Mike, this was pretty good, but, and I enjoyed this,
Mm-hmm.
but I disagree with this,
Oh.
and you left this out. And I would be the primary beneficiary of that.
Okay.
For my next volume of the same book.
I see. I
But
guess we
then-
should hold that book up, right?
Then
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
The next person who I'd like to read it would be the person who is in the midst of leading, and it's an evolutionary process. And then the ones I'd really like to read it, to have them read it, would be the young people.
Mhm.
If I had this book when I was leaving college, when I was entering medical school, when I was going into practice, or when I had my first big leadership position, it would have helped me a great deal.
Now, is there a difference between being a great organizer as opposed to a great leader? Can you be both or one or the other?
Let me see if I can find a quote,
Okay.
because it's not my quote. It's one of my former residents and colleague, and actually was medical director for Bay Care here. But he says, men and women appointed to management positions, so that's the organization, may possess financial, interpersonal, speaking, or other skills that facilitated their advancement to positions of importance. However, they may not understand what leadership means, nor how to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership consists of moving a group, a class, a team, a company, an organization, from the status quo to their collective vision. And so there's a difference between managing
Sure.
and leading.
If you put it in a football, team situation, you would have the general manager of the team as opposed to the coach of the team. And the coach has to be more than just an instructor. He or she has to be a motivator and has to be able to be the type of person that they want to follow, someone who's a leader who they trust.
Well, that kind of goes into our next question.
Okay.
What are some of the concepts that the reader will encounter?
So let me, there are so many, but one thing they would come to understand is how to evaluate performance.
Their own and or other people's.
Well, it's interesting. When I learned how to evaluate others, I learned how to evaluate myself. There was a lot of self-improvement involved. So
That makes sense.
The tools in evaluation include does the person have knowledge? Can the person apply the knowledge? Is the person professional? Is the person ethical? Can the person participate in a team? Can the person lead a team? And can a person find balance between his or her a balance between the personal and professional lives? I first came to understand that applied to young doctors in training. But then I came to understand when I was assigned many employees in organizations, it applied to all of them.
Yeah.
And it applied to myself.
One of my favorite quotes that I've taken from various or from somewhere is that only the mediocre are always at their best. So that can tell you a lot for sure. And, I'm an older guy, so I've been involved in different companies and organizations and worked for people, and I've run my own companies. And I might have somebody working for me who comes in before everybody else at 7 a.m. and they stay until 6. And I may have another person in a similar position come in at 9 and leave at 5. And he gets more done than the person that was there longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Why is that? Positive constructive leaders, they see the world as we, us, and together. This is on the back of your book.
Yes.
So rather than they seldom see the world as me or I, and that's important. I think that's what I took. Dr. Mike, you were a speaker at the Amplified Clearwater Tourism Incubator, and that's where I first met you, and that's what I took away, that main thing that's always stuck with me, is that they seldom see the world as me or I.
You were kind enough to be in the audience. How did I do?
I was in the first row listening to you.
She was impressed.
I was impressed. Yes.
So other concepts, when I first had responsibility for residents and faculty, I thought they had to be good. And then this wonderful CEO of a hospital system said, Mike, I want you to go to Florida and learn about quality. And of course, I thought that meant bring your golf clubs and
Bring your what?
Bring your golf clubs.
and hang out, But it was an intense education at the Crosby Quality College. And what I learned is what quality is. And it's there's a definition, conformance to requirement. There's an attitude, which is done right on time, within budget. There's a measurement of quality, and that's the cost of your mistakes. And boy, that was a good message. But then there was the hard part. The system for quality is prevention. And that's when you have to understand what the problems are. You have to design, implement, and maintain change.
Mhm. I worked for a while for a book publisher, and they had the 3 O's of a successful publication, and that was to be on time, on target, and on budget.
Mm. Yeah,
And you can't, all 3 are interdependent of the other.
absolutely. It applies to everything.
Yeah.
And I'd put another O, but I can't make it an O, but done right,
Yeah,
on time, on target,
sure.
on budget.
Yeah,
hmm
certainly.
How important is it to be honest and ethical?
Well, I would say that's the definition of being a professional.
hmm
And remember, in the evaluation process, one of the questions to be answered is this person professional? And, in my business, if they're below average in that category, they're in the wrong business.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Because people, especially leaders, to be successful, people need to look up to them for the right reasons. And if you have a leader who's dishonest, deceitful, tries to cheat you out of commissions, etc., whole different story when you get somebody with the opposite. Someone who's who's honest, who doesn't lie to you and wants you to succeed instead of beating somebody around the bush.
Well, you're reminding me of, you're touching upon the concept of the servant leader, and that's the one who leads by enabling everyone else's success.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
wonderful.
So,
How can people obtain the book?
that's right. I just looked up the link on Amazon, and I'm going to copy it into Facebook for those who'd like to purchase it. But how can we get your book, Dr. Mike?
Well, I'm in the business of writing books, not really selling them.
Sure.
However, it's available on Amazon. It's available as a paperback and as an ebook, and I highly recommend it. I am in the process of distributing several hundred via email PDFs,
Gotcha.
and encouraging people to pass the message on.
Very
Pass
good.
it forward.
Again,
Absolutely.
remember, Stepping into the Lead, a leadership pocket primer by Dr. Mike White and Charlie Price.
Great.
Very, very wonderful. Great to have you on the show, and it's time now for us to wrap things up because we've run out of time. Kel, why don't we thank our guests?
I'd like to thank our guests, David Albritton, Clearwater City Council member, and Dr. T. Michael White, author of Stepping into the Lead, a leadership pocket primer.
Wonderful. All right. And I want to leave everybody with the same reminder I do every week, but it sure is thing. Listen to us every week, will you? We're here at the same time, the same station. On behalf of Ed Davis, Kelly, and myself, just remember always, don't go looking for happiness. Take it with you.
Thanks for listening to the award-winning Kelly Show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
WTAN Clearwater
FM 106.